Yeah. All right, we are on.
Okay. All right. So today, I just want to begin by asking everybody, at some point over the weekend or in the last 2 days, how many of you have access to the internet in some kind of way? Okay, so everyone. What did you do on the internet? Email, social media?
I prepped my lesson for today.
Okay. Okay.
Research for a class.
I watched a show.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at some point, if any of you were accessing the internet for social media purposes or to read the news or whatever it was you were doing, did you see anything posted about religion? Just as you were scrolling through? Do you remember anything specific that you saw? Okay. Would you like to share?
I saw some videos on my Facebook feed of Mormon.org videos. So
Okay.
people sharing different religious videos.
Okay. Same experience? Okay, so just be thinking about that as I go through some of these things, and we'll revisit that in a little bit. So today we'll be looking at the relationship between religion and the internet, or digital religion. So we'll look at how advancements in communication and digital technology have influenced how people practice religion, the appearance of religion in different online spaces, and then we'll talk about the implications of this, so why it matters. So just to start with some terminology stuff, digital religion is a fairly new subfield that surfaced in the mid to late 1990s as cyber religion. It was also known as religion online or online religion, but today it's mostly just known as digital religion. It's an area of study that was sparked because in the last several decades there have obviously been significant changes in communication technology, so mainly the invention of the internet and how that's grown and how people have become so interactive with it and have grown to use that on almost a daily basis. So the term digital religion refers to religion as it is practiced online in different ways, but it's also more than that. It shows how digital media and digital spaces are shaping and are being shaped by different religious practices. So to define this area of scholarship, I find it best to use the definition by Heidi Campbell. She's a prominent religion and media scholar, and she defines it as the technological and cultural space that is evoked when we talk about how online and offline religious spheres have become blended and integrated. She also says that we can think of digital religion as kind of a bridge that connects and extends online religious practices and spaces into offline religious contexts, and then vice versa. So another way to look at it is as mentioned by another way to think about this is not just as a combination of traits from different qualities, but also as its own entity. So while it is the combination of traits from digital and religious culture, so things such as the combination of interactivity, convergence, and audience-generated content with belief, ritual, and practice or worship, it's also a new entity as combined. So I want you to look at it as kind of a new notion of religious practice as it stands alone. And then one more way to kind of think about it is as mentioned by two other religion and media scholars, Stuart Hoover and Nabil Anchabi, who think about digital religion as kind of a conceptual space that they call a third space. So not a physical location, but more of a fluid, conceptual, and imagined location where new kinds of religious practices are taking place. So I've broken digital religion into 3 different categories that I hope will help explain the different ways that religion appears online. The first is religious internet usage or religious engagement online. Examples of this can include mobile apps, online worship and practices, websites associated with different institutions, and then their accompanying social media. The second is online religious discourse, or the different ways in which people are talking about religion in online spaces. So examples of this can include blogs, podcasts, chat rooms and online communities, and then social media again. And then the third is internet usage like or as religion. The biggest example of this can be virtual gaming. So before I get deeper into those, I just wanted to share this with you. The Pew Research Center in a December 2015 study found that 3/4 of Americans go online at least daily, and 1/5 of Americans report going online almost constantly. And to step back a little bit, there's another Pew Research study from 2001 that started to look at when people began to shift their religious practices into an online space. They called it cyberfaith at the time, but they found that 28 million Americans have used the internet to get religious and spiritual information and connect with others on their faith journeys. That was in 2001. So they found also that the September 11th terror attacks compelled millions of internet users to turn to religious issues and concerns online. So they found things like 41% of internet users said they sent or received email prayer requests at that time. 23% of internet users turned to online sources to get information about Islam, and 7% of internet users contributed to relief charities online. So those were the kinds of things that they were doing at that time, beginning to shift into this online space. So these findings can tell us a lot about the different ways that religion appears in online spaces, but most importantly, they illustrate a movement toward these new practices, that the internet seems to act as an extension of pre-existing beliefs or practices, or maybe alternative beliefs or practices, yet it also offers brand new ways for religion and practice to evolve. So now I'm going to briefly go over each of my 3 categories, and I'll start with religious internet usage and religious engagement online. So this refers to people who are actively using the internet and other modern technologies for religious purposes, whatever that means for people. So for many people whose actions fall into this group, digital technologies act as platforms on which to extend their practices and also to reach new audiences and provide resources for people to access things in new ways, things like that. Examples of this can be, again, websites that accompany an institution or a place of worship to kind of get the word out about what it is that they're doing, and their accompanying social media platforms if they have them. Another example of this can be a cyber church or an internet church, also called an online church. It refers to a wide variety of ways that just a religious group can use the internet to facilitate its religious activities, particularly worship services. There's also things like cyber synagogues and cyber mosques, cyber covens or virtual covens for neo-pagan groups, various things like that. So these websites, what a lot of them have in common is that they can host virtual gatherings and meetings. They often also have video and online content, sometimes 24-hour streaming access to their content. And a more specific example of this can be Voice of the Light Ministries, which is a prophetic apostolic ministry that carries on many of its practices online versus in person. So they've created multiple spaces for their users to access content in new ways. They have an active YouTube channel, and this is just some of their recent videos. They have a SoundCloud account for audio content, a live streaming service in English and in Spanish, a video content library that you can access at all hours of the day, and they also have a radio channel. So it's this kind of emphasis on digital content that's giving people new ways to extend their faith online. That's what most of these have in common. Just a few other quick examples of this can be, this first image up here is a screenshot from a website where you can access a live stream of various areas of Mecca in Saudi Arabia, and also mobile apps, as I said. These tend to emphasize convenience, so if you're in a religious studies undergraduate class and you need to access a Bible, I've been in various classes where people have just had a Bible app on their phone and they'll access things that way, so it's just kind of convenient. So moving on to the next category, online religious discourse, or again the ways in which people talk about religion online or in other digital spaces. This includes things like news and information websites, and audience-generated content such as blogs, podcasts, chat rooms, and other online communities, and then again, social media. So another more specific example of this is Patheos.com, which is the largest religion blog hub. Have any of you ever heard of Patheos or regularly accessed Patheos? Okay.
One of our part-time instructors is a regular writer on Patheos.
Right. Okay, so it was founded in 2008 and it encourages a dialogue from contributors about topics having to do with religion and spirituality. It houses a library of information about select religions, but more importantly for me, it hosts nearly 500 blogs varying in religious affiliation, and they're sorted by these religious affiliations too, so you can easily access them depending on what you're looking for. It also receives about 850,000 page views per day, and it's considered the largest English language religion website in the world. So before we discuss that in more detail, I want to show you one more Pew Research study. This one's from 2014, and it's a study about religion and electronic media. It finds that in an average week, 1 in 5 Americans share their religious faith online, and nearly half of U.S. adults see someone else share their religious faith online in a typical week, like at least once a week. So keeping that in mind, what we mentioned at the beginning of the class, and in mind your own digital experiences with religion, why do you think this is so popular, the sharing of faith online? What do you think compels people to do this? Whether it's on websites like Patheos or sharing a post on Facebook.
For evangelism, you reach a lot more people.
Okay.
Maybe it just kind of shows people that, you're a respectable, moral person. Like, I feel like whenever I see people writing about their faith online, it has something to do with, their friend that was sick is better now, and their doctor saved them, thank God, or, something past. But it's like a way to like talk about something tough and then make yourself look good. That sounds bad, but.
I was gonna actually agree with her. It's more of like a pessimistic view, but I think it can be a way of performance.
Okay.
Perform your thing.
Yeah, even like prove to yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
But there's also access to, you may not maybe feel, maybe not feel at home in a church or a physical location in your faith group, but online you can have a wider variety of people who may subscribe to a belief.
Okay. So there are these themes of reaching wider audiences, access, performance, and how you look. Can you think of anything else, or
Convenience too.
convenience? Okay. Well, we'll touch on some of this stuff in a little bit. But to move on, just a couple other examples of this are, the top here is a screenshot of the religion journalist at the Charlotte Observer, who also has a faith blog. And then down here, this is just 2 screenshots. The first is the most popular religion and spirituality podcasts on iTunes, and then next to it are just a few examples of #religion that I found on Twitter. And then this is kind of hard to read, but this is just a small snapshot of a very long list that I found of a variety of different religious chat rooms, and they get really specific as well, so it seems like they have something for a wide variety of people, different ways to house conversations specifically about religion, or to like-minded people, to find like-minded people.
Haley, about what % of those are singles meeting sites?
A very large percent. So it seems like there's this theme of trying to find people like you. So, yeah, and there's a lot more of them as well. So I'll now touch on our last category, which is the internet usage like or as religion. And this mainly refers to digital games that create kind of virtual religious realities. And I'm also including in this interactive websites designed specifically for religious users, because I think that's also important. So for example, is anyone familiar with Second Life? Okay. Couple people. So this is an online virtual world that was launched in 2003. By 2013, there were 1 million regular users, and the company itself does not consider it to be a game because there's no initial conflict or objective per se, but it allows you to build a virtual world from scratch. And so the avatars that you create within this world can interact with one another, and they can interact with other people who also have avatars. And so basically you can just create whatever life you would like. And religion often makes its way into these games as well. There's been a lot of scholarship about Buddhism found in Second Life quite frequently. And I've got a video clip here to show you. This is a clip of a custom animation that was made of Tibetan Buddhists for somebody's Second Life account. And if you'll just notice the precision and the attention to detail here.
You might want to turn off the light.
You don't really have to hear anything. This is basically the extent of the video, but you can just see here the crazy attention to detail. It's so much like reality, the movements that people are doing, so it looks like one person is in control of the first avatar and then other users or participants are kind of following suit. So it's this online meditation. And I have two other examples. This is Big Light Games. It is a gaming website specifically for young children who want to play games that have to do with biblical themes. And then this is a similar website. It is called IslamisPlayground.com. It is a Muslim game website that houses interactive quizzes about the Islamic faith. And these, I don't know if you can read that, but these are just two examples of questions in a quiz. But it's meant to be fun. Okay, so I have an exercise that I'd like to do for the remainder of the class and just kind of discuss some of these things. Thank you. I'll pass this out. This is a case study. So if you want to just read, it's a very short case study, and then answer these three questions. You can answer it by yourself, or with those around you, you can all answer together if you want. But just jot down a couple of your thoughts on this, and then we can open it up to a larger discussion.
I'm just dying. So inside.
Thank you so much. Is everybody almost done? Okay, well, I'd love to open it up to discussion now and talk about some of your answers, and maybe you can just include things that you think about, things that you've gone over. Don't feel like you have to just talk about this one case study. But up here I have a few screenshots of this world that's been created in your case study. Oh, thank you. So you can see again, similarly to the video that we just watched, the precision of this. It's very lifelike. And then down here you can see all of the users. These are people who are logging on regularly to participate in this silent meditation. So what were some of the things that you put for the first question? So how is this example of digital religion representative of some of the larger trends in American religious culture or digital culture? How is this reflective of that? How is this that new kind of religious practice that Heidi Campbell describes? Go ahead.
I said it created a form of community, which is essential in religious belief and religious practice, that you have to be part of a community, to really, I guess, be in it, like to believe that, I don't know how to describe it. But like looking at those photos, I'm thinking the idea that you have to be in a certain communal space, and the game or the digital area is created for you, like that space is still created for you even though you're online. It's like created.
So does it still count as a communal space? If you're technically in your living room at home or in your bedroom at home behind your computer doing this, does it still count as community?
I look at it, I want to look at the photos and say yes, because you're all virtually in that space. But like the answer to my second question is kind of the opposite, in that it recreates the idea of place for
Okay.
spirituality.
Going on that, it kind of is whatever you want it to be. So when you go online, you can be whoever you want to be. So you can say, hey, I want to be a Buddhist for a couple hours. Go on here. Or, I mean, it's just.
I think I'll log off.
Well, yeah, seriously though, people, like, I know people that just go on these things and just walk around, and they would go in here and pretend to be part of something they weren't. So to people that think it really is a community, if they do, I mean, that's kind of an issue. Could be.
Because I think anonymity has something to do with it, like, I
How do
think
you
it
know?
reaches a wider audience because you feel safer going to these spaces. Because you don't have to worry about, you know, like that being found out is not really, but you can be curious about something and try it out without having to feel pressure you would if you went to a physical location and tried to join a group or religion.
Okay.
Is it being anonymous if you're all the same? Did,
What do you mean?
Does that make sense? Like
No.
what
Say it again.
is being is it being anonymous if you're all the same? If all of these characters are the same, is that being anonymous, or is that just
I mean, unless you come out and say, hey, my name is.
So it's not an actual place, so everyone is the same, they're all sort of.
so you're not really? I mean,
Truly,
I'm thinking you're
but
not
in
really
ways
anonymous.
different.
You're just. I mean, I don't know. Okay.
I mean,
You're not. You're anonymous in the fact that you're not physically there, but
Right.
you're not
Yeah, I
necessarily
mean-
anonymous in the virtual world.
No, but I mean, like, somebody couldn't, connect that with your personal life and your, you know, your legal name and everything they could.
That was just
Yes.
a tangent. Like, what?
So do you think there's a draw in that then, being able to get online in a space like this and just be a specific person? Maybe, well, if you can call it a person, be something that is either embodied, like yourself embodied, or completely different entity? Do you think that's a draw for people to do things like this?
Yes.
Okay.
A draw.
Like, do you think that that is compelling, a big reason? Do you think that that is a big reason that is compelling people to participate in these kinds of online communities, if we want to call them that?
Like, I don't think that's the sole reason at all, but I think that's definitely part of it. Just internet trolls, like we all know about these trolls. Yeah, they're there to.
Well, it doesn't have to be negative, I can also see somebody just being curious.
Yeah, yeah,
And
I
so
like
this is
that.
a way that can feel safe doing it without having, you know, the social pressure, you know, any kind of joining a group like that in a physical space. It can also just be simple
I think it's
curiosity.
just, yeah, I think curiosity is a big part of it, and just learning, people who want to learn about other religious traditions. Maybe they even plan to attend a Buddhist ceremony in an actual place, but say this is like a preparation sort of thing.
Okay.
And technology has become such a big part of our lives, and we have, so like everything, most things have a technological copy of it. So you can find it online or do it online. And I mean, it makes sense that if religion is a big part of somebody's life, that they would also create their religious life online as well. If they're creating another representation of themselves, it just seems like a natural side effect of that.
Okay.
I have a weird question, but I don't know if it's gonna make sense.
Okay.
I'm thinking about the idea of like faith. Can faith be manifested, like manifest digitally? Like, can you have? I mean, I don't know. I guess I've never been able to do that, but I don't know. How do you have faith in a virtual world?
Like, if there's no real life like in none of that, like religion in real life, what do you mean exactly?
Never mind.
Well, like,
No, it's a
good
interesting
question.
idea.
I
Just
mean,
unpack it a little bit.
I'm guessing it's different from all religions, so that's why I'm like, but I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about
I
that.
think what he's kind of like that, whether with religious experience, there's some kind of like interaction happening? You're saying that online's more like a replica of things that are happening, so there's no real, maybe interaction is what we're looking for?
Yeah.
Are people having like a spiritual experience?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
But
are
I-
they just going through the motions, replicating things that would do in real life, or things that could be done in real life?
How many times do we go to church and just?
But emotions, yeah.
True.
I guess it just depends on the person. And
Yeah.
maybe this is more comfortable for them. They don't like getting in front of people.
Well, especially if there's someone that gets that experience from gaming, that this might be something that they can get that experience of going to a religious ceremony online, where they get caught up in that kind of phenomenology of what's going on.
Especially if they physically can't go.
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking of how it centers the body in a different way. Like, I mean, and the specific example you gave, like, they're doing, you know, the like genuflecting bowing motion, and you don't physically do that when you're in the game, like, or in the space, like, you're like clicking or whatever, so it's like maybe your body like physically can't do that motion, but you can do it with your hands, so you're able to like have that experience like kind of vicariously.
Do you think that the experience taking place in a virtual world is any less meaningful, or any more meaningful, or the same?
I would argue that it would have to be inevitably significantly less meaningful because the brain and the body are not independent organisms. And whatever you're feeding into the brain, if it's not coupled by bodily sensations, it's going to be impoverished to some extent, right? Collective effervescence is a measurable phenomenon within a social setting, right? There's kind of emergent property, and you can't have that emergent property or that sense of collective transcendence. I wouldn't think if you're sitting vigilantly isolated in front of a flashing screen. So if you don't have your own body moving in synchrony, if you're not feeling the heat or the emotion that goes around you, I would think that it would have to be a less modifying and personal experience.
Okay.
This is just wholly cerebral.
Does anybody disagree with that?
I mean, I don't wanna say I disagree, cause he knows a lot more about mind and all that stuff than I do. But I mean, just going back to Josh's just previous comment, I think it just depends on the person and what kind of experiences they've already had and how they connect with technology in that way. I think will change how they experience the religion online.
I wouldn't necessarily think it would be less, but I think it would be very different, because I agree that there's a difference in the way you would experience it if you were in a group and then just in yourself, but you are being stimulated in some ways. I mean, you do have a physical self, and you are sitting somewhere, and you are seeing these things. There's the visual aspect.
Well, there also might be the reactionary aspect of
Yeah.
if this is a virtual world where to be in this temple requires you to do these certain things in a timely fashion, that you have to react
Right.
quick enough on a keyboard or whatever mechanism
Right.
it is to do the action. Or you get kicked out of the temple
Yeah.
in whatever space that is.
And we didn't hear any sounds, but I would imagine there's also the Buddhist thing. I imagine there's chanting or a gong or something that's also giving the sense, the hearing, invoking the body that way as well.
Because I feel like, I mean, it's a different type of community, but I feel like it is a community, because I know people who are really into like different fandoms, and like, we really have a sense of community in those spaces. And I feel like this could be fostered in a space like this. I'm not familiar with these spaces, but I think the community can be in those places.
I don't know, because I mean, I did virtual meditation before, and it's very different from being in a yoga
Yeah.
space and doing actual meditation, you know? And
No, I'm not
then
saying
the
it's-
person up front
yeah.
is typing namaste, so the rest of the class can see namaste, you know, and everyone just responds namaste. So I don't know. I kind of agree with you. I can't say necessarily I see the divinity in you because we didn't physically experience this space together.
No, I agree,
don't
it's
know.
different. I just don't know that I could qualify it as being
Less
less
valid.
or more, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, when you said that, I initially thought that it was a great qualification. But then I would not disagree with that it was a great qualification because you could light incense in your house, right? And then therefore you'd be activating at least 3 distinct sense modalities, right? Sight, sound,
Right.
and olfaction. proprioceptive connectivity with these ideas, then the ideas are just ideas and not embodied perceptions of the world, right? So I think when you couple the ideas with a certain type of embodiment, that creates a more comprehensive and therefore a more type of experience, you know, it's more because it is more, right? It involves just more sense modalities than just three. Because even if you light in sense, it might just be two. If it really is one.
It occurs to me that religions are eminently gamifiable in a way, and I'm just wondering if there's examples online of churches, religious groups that somehow keep track of your progress, or you become, there's some kind of sort of competition between you and a goal or whatever. Do those exist?
I'm not 100% sure, but I would imagine that they do, because even the I can't remember what it was called now, but the cyber church that I gave you the screenshot of their YouTube channel, they're very much focused on selling products, and like these products that will enhance your life, like oils, and they have a heaven soap, and things like that, and you can register.
What does that
with-
smell like?
I have no idea.
I need to get some.
Smell like
I
hell,
like
and you
lights.
just need to get rid of it.
Yeah, send me the URL. I'm going to order some of that.
Okay. But you can register with them if you can access their online content, and if you feel compelled, you can register with them and become a salesman for them. And I know that like you can kind of level up in that way. And that's just one example, and it has a lot to do with sales. But I would imagine, just thinking even of religions like Scientology, there's this idea of moving up and gaining more
Right.
knowledge. So I would imagine that there are places online that are like that as well. Okay, well, we've kind of answered a lot of these questions in our discussion just now. But just lastly, and again, we've kind of gone over this a little bit, but why would somebody engage in a virtual world like this versus in their, I don't want to say actual life, but real life?
One thing that I said, I mean, I'm not super familiar with this, so this could be really wrong, but it seems like it's a space where you can have more control and you can create more perfection. And the fact, like, you can set an exact, like, routine of how I would like to do those, the prostrations, and you can do things more perfectly because you don't have the fallibility of your body and other outside people that could necessarily be corrupting your world. So you can create a more perfect place.
Okay.
No, I agree with you. I'm interested, like, the community aspect, like Jared was talking about, like, because in one sense, I think it's like you open yourself to a broader community that, like, the person sitting next to you can be someone from Italy, and the next person could be someone from Thailand. But then again, like, I wonder how much interaction you're having with those actual people. Like, so are you forming community? Because, like, in a certain sense, I feel like you are forming that broad community with people. It becomes international and cross-national. But then again, it doesn't, depending on how much you're talking with people.
I've also thought about, we're just assuming that since you can create a avatar that you're engaging, that all people are engaging in these spaces singly. I mean, just because it's available on the internet doesn't mean you're doing it alone. You could, a friend could be there with you. You could have a whole group of people there with you in that space doing it, just because it's.
Yeah, I was wondering about that though, like, is it like, oh yeah, this is the cool thing, let me show you what's going on so we can make fun of it type thing.
Yeah, I mean, that could happen too, but the point is that just because it's as accessible by computer doesn't necessarily mean everybody's alone when they're
Mhm.
accessing it.
Yeah.
But then, adding on to that, I would think if 4 people are on a computer doing it virtually, are you really having that experience because you're all not really facing each other? You're facing your computer together. So
What's the difference in that and having dinner with your friends and everybody's texting each other while at the table instead of having a conversation?
Get new friends, dude.
I'm sorry, I go out all the time with my friends, and literally our rule is we put the phone on the table and don't touch them. And like, but we like look around and everybody literally is 4 people sitting at a table and just.
Yeah, I've seen it.
I mean, is that dinner any less real or community driven than that? I mean, a religious service like that?
That's a good point, though, like for families, you know, especially if you can put your internet up on your TV,
Yeah.
and stuff going on.
And I've got one more question, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. I asked earlier if this was any more or less of a community because it's online, but this specifically is an online community for silent meditation. So if, when you're online, those are the kinds of practices you're doing, does this make sense? Like, is that any less of a community? If you're logging on for this, in this organization specifically, to practice a virtual silent meditation, is that still community? Are you building a community with the people around you if you're not interacting with them the way you might in other virtual realities? Does that make sense?
It's like a different type of community. Like online communities are different. I don't know.
But I feel like with religious community, I feel like it's on repetition. You have, I mean, if you're typing out your friends, hey, see you next Saturday for this exact session, then sure, you're creating a community. But I don't know. I don't know.
It's like how far could you actually take that community? Can you do all the things that the real life community can do?
Have you found any examples of people that did that and then actually started up actual worship centers, like real life worship centers?
I don't know that, but I know that the numbers have grown significantly in this. And this is not the only one. There are a lot of Buddhist and Hindu Second Life virtual worlds that just gain users really quickly for meditation kind of.
So in this kind of thing, all of these areas are used as like silent meditation, there's no interaction between members at all?
I don't believe, I mean, not in the temples at least.
Right.
I don't believe, I honestly don't know. I don't know if when
Or
you
if there's-
leave the temple, you're
Yeah,
kind of
if
interacting.
there's any kind of spaces within this world that people can't interact.
I think that there are because it also, well, the website at least boasts that it's a place for any user to come and learn about Buddhism, like learn the basics of Buddhism. So I guess it's just in these temples that people are having this silent meditational experiences.
Because I mean, if the outside places in a real Buddhist situation, that would be the case, then if they are can have these interactions outside, but then I would say, yeah, you are creating a community, because that would replicate what a real Buddhist community would be like.
Okay.
Well, isn't there something to be said just for doing, even if you're doing nothing, doing it together there?
Yeah.
Because this might seem silly, but I'm just thinking about like if there was a hypothetical chat room where there's only one rule when you log in, that's that you can't type anything. You still have to log in to do nothing. So I don't know. I think there's something to be said for doing nothing together, even if you could do that not there, I guess.
I agree with that. I'm more familiar with Quaker type worships, and they're silent. But the idea is that there is this kind of energy or space when you're all together being silent.
Right.
So I feel like there is, but what's throwing me is the fact that it's virtual.
Because I'm thinking of technology as the escape, from real life. So you're escaping to a silent Buddhist meditation to escape what's going on in your real world. That like it becomes this thing of I'm not trying to form community. I'm trying to actually get away from whatever my community is here to be able to be silent for an hour, however long I'm logged on.
Well, how is that different from just shutting up everything and being silent by yourself? Yeah.
Well, no, dude,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe it's just because they want to be visually simulated with a Buddhist temple. I mean,
That's why I was going to, if there's any interaction at all.
It's like Benjamin's aura.
Yeah, no, it was just, it's really not that much different. I don't know, this is too much.
We should come all one.
So
like,
interesting.
create some avatar. Like, y'all experiencing
like,
the community right now.
But do they have like other types of churches? Like, can you just go to Catholic church? Like, hey, I need to the best.
Oh,
On
Go to
site.
heaven.
Yes.
Well, how do you receive communion that way, though?
Those things are online. Can't receive communion, although you can actually order to have someone come to your house, depending on what parish you're in. So yeah, there is so much of it is now online. But yeah, you can have confession online and have prayers and all that kind of
I
stuff
mean, my
done for you.
mom she doesn't attend, but she visits an online church, and they have like a time, like 10 minutes where they're like, okay, we're gonna have offering. And so you have to like, you don't have to, but they like cut service and put up the like offering, give now, which is interesting. It's like, where's your money going? So, yeah.
Does that church also meet in, I'm struggling with the word to use here.
In
Reality
real
and- So they also meet in real life?
Physical
world. So, like,
Physical world, thank you.
First and third Sunday, they meet in real life, and then like second and fourth, it's online.
Okay.
Is there money involved in Second Life?
I don't really know. I don't know if you have to pay to have an account, but I'm not so sure actually. You might have to.
Just a thought that might be relevant, because Josh makes me think about the tie a lot. If sacrifice is an intrinsic part of your like, religion, like it doesn't have to be included in every definition, but any definition that does include sacrifice as an essential part of religion would say that all my religion is not really religion if there's no sacrifice involved. You're just making it clear, like you're not traveling, you're not wasting time, right?
Well,
I mean,
ultimate waste of time.
Still sounds like a waste of time, yeah.
I mean, it could actually be seen as like the ultimate waste of time.
Yeah.
So like the battalions, it could actually
Well,
be
and then travel time.
ultimate sacrifice
Travel
that you're not producing anything.
It's just a lot easier for me to pull out my laptop and get on there than it is to go like, all right, I'm gonna drive over to Central Church of God, and take 30 minutes and get a parking space and walk up in the building. I have to talk to people I don't like,
I mean, I guess it would depend on
to get to the people I do like or whatever.
genuality. I mean, if you're genuine virtual rather than, I would consider a sacrifice being that I'm being genuine virtually than being
Right.
not genuine in real life.
That makes sense. That you're actually trying to engage spirituality.
Yeah, then I would obviously consider it a sacrifice. But if I like go to a church and sleep like I usually do, then sacrifice, that's me just finding another place to nap.
You have about 3 minutes, and I just want to say, I just took a page of notes on your teaching, and it disappeared. So one thing that I noted on it, though, was that maybe 8 years ago, the Center for Teaching and Learning was really pushing for us to teach classes in Second Life. So not just online, but in a Second Life classroom. And so when I went to the training for it, because I was fascinated, there were some of these classes in which there were hundreds of students. They all had their own avatars. You could tell whether or not they were there because you could take attendance because they had assigned seating, and you could have them do group work, and you would do your thing in the front of the class, and you could interact, and people would ask questions, and I didn't really see it catch on, certainly not here, but it might well have at other universities. You could ask some of these same questions about religion and teaching and learning too. Is it the same thing? Is it as meaningful? Is it all that good
Has
stuff?
anyone else
So-
read Ready Player One? I mean,
Yeah.
like literally,
Yeah.
that's like.
I had to have class in Second Life.
And we should do class like that. Like instead of like Moodle, we should have a virtual class. University reconstructed like that.
It gets out of control real fast.
Oh, I
You
would
like ride a
imagine.
horse to class,
I
it's
imagine.
like, it gets wild.
Hard to get horse.
That's
Yeah.
excellent.
Acts like get killed.
All right, well, let's thank Haley. I'm going to try to find all my notes.